Hi there, this is Daryl Olson from the Jackson Kayak Fishing Team, and today I'm going to show you how to tie a Budagrassy shrimp pattern that was created by Drei Stroman. I hope I didn't hack his name up too bad. And he was looking to develop a fly that was a little different out there, a shrimp pattern that would give a different appearance or presentation to redfish or trout or whatever else will eat a shrimp. And so he came up with this pattern. It's very simple. But it's a two-stage fly. You have to prep part of it and then use that prep part to finish off your fly. So what we're going to start with is instead of working on the hook right away, we're going to make this the tail or body of the shrimp, and that uses a material called supreme hair. And so you can't see it too well. I tried playing with the lights and that, but this is a pink, and this here is a chartreuse tail. And I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by building a few of those, and then from there we'll go on to building the fly on there. So there's not really many materials. A little bit, some challenging things like the dumbbell eye is parallel sitting on top of the hook. We'll talk about that when we get there. And then it uses also a bead chain eye and some rubber legs, or in this case I use some Life Flex material. It's a rubber material as well, and for the legs and for the antennae. Why don't we go ahead and get started on this. And you can make this in many colors, gray, white, olive. In there you could probably not have to use the chartreuse tail on there. But one thing you're going to need to do to make this section is you're either going to clamp a bobbin in here or a needle, and tie on a needle. Tie on that to make this section, because it's two pieces. It's not on the hook. But what I like about the stone flow there, I can just remove that part off, and I can put in my tube fly attachment and use that as my pin right there. So you can either do one of those three methods if you don't have a tube fly in vise, or that, just put a needle in your thing, make sure it's nice and tight on there. And then the other material you're going to need for this part is going to be some fine monofilament thread for this on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to build that tail section or body section, and like I said, I'm going to be using supreme hair in pink, because that's what you usually think of when you're doing shrimp. And the other material we will use will be the supreme hair in chartreuse for the fan or the tail part of the fly. Now, whether you're using one or two colors, you still have to use two materials to tie together, or figure out some way to do that on there. So you could probably use flex tail, flox tail, or whatever they call it. Imitation deer hair probably would work on there. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to take a bit of this supreme hair material, about the diameter of a coffee straw, and trim that off. And to me, that looks like diameter of a coffee straw. And I'm going to be tying 3 of these, so you're not going to see it all, but I'm going to take this material and I'm going to cut it up into 3 sections of 3-inch lengths. Because, you know, you always tie your flies, I've always been told, in groups of 3. That's usually 1 for the oyster mound, 1 for any brush along the creek, and then 1 for the fish. You know, if you're a caster like me, you probably need to have at least 3 of those. Maybe 4 wouldn't be a bad idea, so that way if a fish steals one, you know, you've got an extra on there. So you're going to cut these into segments of 3 inches. And store them out of the way. And then you're going to take your thread and you're going to start that on the hook, about 10 or 12 wraps. Don't count while I'm going. I know this monofilament is not going to be easy for you to see. Yeah, it doesn't look very easy to me looking at the monitor. But use your imagination on there. And then you're going to grab your little section. And since I set it down, I'm going to trim off some. Looks like I didn't have a good clean cut. And you're going to put the long end of it towards this section. And try to keep this bundle on top of your hook, or on top of the needle. And then kind of bring it back about the middle or towards the end of it there. And then that's our next we're going to grab some of our material for the fan. And we only need a 1-inch section of that. So when I'm going down here, I'm measuring, if you didn't know that. Just a 1-inch. This is what the fan will be made out of. And I'm going to clean up both ends of this a little bit. And we're going to tie that in with the longest part of the fan going this way. And then we're going to make sure we spread this out. So your fan's going to look like that. But I'm going to close it up a little bit. And then we can try to do a whip finish. And this is always the hard part for me because somehow my bigger whip finish tool is doesn't work very well. Give it 2 or 3 whip finishes. Like I said, don't count. When I give you a number, could be 5. And then we're going to trim off some of this excess. We're okay on the bottom. And then and on this fly here, I'm going to use some clear cure goo. It's UV resin. And I'm going to put that on top of the thread. And then also kind of like on top of a little bit to kind of hold the shape of that. To hold the shape of the tail. Turn on my UV light. And then kind of twist it on the hook and it comes off. So now I've got my body and tail made for the rest. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll make a few more of these, and then next you'll see on there is how we start assembling the fly, at least how I do it. But all right, now that we're done tying our bodies that we did a little bit ago, I turned the light on a little bit so it's going to be maybe harder for you to see the colors, but this one's the pink and chartreuse. So we'll go back to our normal fly tying vise. In there. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to place a B10S stinger hook from Gamakatsu in a size 1. And everything that we're tying when we did the body and the tail is all based on a size 1 hook. You would have to calculate out if you wanted to go smaller or bigger how much material you're going to use. So in this case I'm tying to a size 1, so all the lengths that I'm giving you for what cutting is what replies to that. And basically, since the tail was 3 inches plus the 1 inch, and I've lost my debarbing tool. There it is. So let's say the body segment and is it like the body segment is a total of 4 inches. If you were going to convert that over, you could measure the straight part of this this hook, and you're going to find that it's maybe just a little short of an inch, but we'll call it an inch. So that tail section that we're putting on, you know, is going to be back in this area. So it's going to be maybe 3.5 times past this bend of the hook on here. And so by using that type of measurement, you can figure, and measuring your hook on a similar hook, you can say, if it's, let's say the hook is a smaller version and it's only like a 1/2 inch stinger hook where it's flat, and you're putting in, so your yellow chartreuse tail would be, you know, a 1/2 inch long, and then maybe the body and the tail part to that fan is going to be 1.5 inches for a smaller hook. So doing that type of measurements, you're going to be able to determine what length of those materials you're going to need and tie up. Now I'm going to use, since I'm doing pink, you know, I could use a 210 denier spool of thread. Here the original recipe for this actually calls for a 16/0. That's like a very small midge or dry fly type thing for trout fishing. I'm sure that the creator is trying to keep weight down as much as possible, but as long as your thread is matching the main body color, and in this case it's pink, you could get by with 210 if you think you're being heavy-handed. You know, the thing with 16/0 or 17/0 or 12/0 for these smaller flies, you usually aren't applying a lot of tension, but my problem when I'm going to a bigger hook, that I sometimes forget that, and that's what happens. I forget, and then I get a little heavy-handed. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this fly put a base on this flat section, so we're just above the hook point. And we're going to work our way from the back to the front in sections like this. And like I said, if you're new at fly tying and you having issues with the smaller thread, as long as the thread is matching the color that of the body of the fly, you can use a heavier thread. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in our weight. Let me flip this upside down because we're going to put the weight right in here. And we're going to use a 5/32 or extra small lead weight. You can either get them colored, white would be a good choice on this fly, but I'm just using some plain because I have plain, don't have painted. I have it painted, but you know, on this one here. And then you're going to need this really fancy tool called the snips, because what we're going to do is I'm going to put this dumbbell eye into the wire cutter, and I'm making sure that the claw, that it's somewhat parallel, so when I cut down on it, I'm going to put a groove. So I'm just going to cut in, and I'm going to flip it over. Try to find that area again so I can get a deep cut. And make sure that I'm aligned up with the other cut. And what that'll do, that'll allow me to balance this hook or the lead eye parallel with the shank of the hook. And then we're just going to tie that in. So slightly different way approach to putting in a lead eye compared to other things, and you got to be careful. I just cut my thread because of the the sharpness there, but that's not an issue. All right. As soon as I get this somewhat secure, I'll be able to move my hand out. And we're going to want to secure this in there, or at least put a good coating in there. You're not going to be able to do any cross wraps or we just want to make sure that we've got it somewhat secure. All right, now we're going to flip our thing over, our hook over. All right, next we're going to take our Life Flex legs, rubber legs, whatever you're planning on using, and we're going to want to cut 3 to 4 segments of this material that are 2 inches long for the legs. And in this case I'm using fluorescent pink to go along with the pink body. It'll be a little darker than the body, but that's what it is. And I'm going to cut off a 4-inch section, fold it in half, and I'll put that over in my little storage area here. And then I'll just need another 4-inch section. And fold that in half. And that'll give me my 4 segments for the legs. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them underneath here, so it'll give me some. And I'll make sure they're even. Give it a couple turns. And don't worry about it. Just let them go where they want. And we're going to do the similar process a few times. At least one for each pair of legs that we're going to put on. If you do 3, you only have to do it 3 times. I like putting 4 legs. I don't know why. It just seems the thing to do. And make sure that it stays on top of the hook. And then we'll put our last section on. All right, and then we have our legs on there. All right, next we're gonna do is build up a little space for our bead eyes. For bead eyes, I'm using some bead chain eyes, medium and black. All right, next what we're going to do is we're going to tie in our body section that we made earlier, making sure that our fan is in line with so it's perpendicular to the hook. And we'll try to brush forward all the materials. Now you might have some short ones and we'll have to trim them away, but you're going to rest that. Kind of tilt it towards you. Put it on top of the hook. And try to capture those fibers. If you don't get them all, we'll trim those off. So I didn't get all of them right there. That's not a problem. And then any little fibers that are sticking up, we'll just trim those off. Then we'll take our bead chain, which are medium black, and using a small cutter, don't use your scissors. Cut off 2 little beads. And then we're going to do some figure 8s on this. Make sure the beads are perpendicular for the eyes. Make sure that your eyes are level. They're not canted or cocked-eyed. And we're going to secure these in place. And then we'll helicopter around to tighten up those wraps. And we'll come back to the front. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make this, before I tied that in, I probably should have done this. We should put a little to lock those in a little bit. Turn on the UV light. And we'll turn this back over and we'll put the antenna on. And that'll be the same as our leg material, 5 to 6 inches long. And then right in front of our bead chains there, we'll put our antenna on, and we're going to make sure they're somewhat level. And we're going to figure 8 these. Get a little tricky being rubber. And then we'll put a thread base here in front of it. And then we'll put a little UV under there. Right, we'll take our material again, and we're going to need 1.5 inches of this body material to finish off the fly. Let me put this down, and I'm gonna kind of put my legs out of the way, the antennae. And then we're going to tie this down in front of those barbell or the chain eyes. Give it a counterclockwise spin to flatten the thread out or to allow it to loop backwards. Had a couple fibers that didn't want to stay. Make sure they're not covering up. Trim anything that looks like is blocking the eye. Give it some build up ahead. Give it a whip finish to complete it. One more. Trim our thread. Put a little UV on here. Okay. And to make sure our legs are all roughly the same length, we're going to just give them a little trim. And now our antennae, we want to have that just a little short, and that's pretty good right there. So what I'm going to do is make sure they're both the same length. And trim our antennae. And there we have it. Our finished Budagrassy fly in pink. And I'm hoping to be able to catch some reds on that this summer here. And we'll just see how I do. If you want, give this thing a try, and we will let me know how it goes. I mean, post your pictures on Facebook when you're using any of the flies that I've shown you how to tie, and we will we'll see. Maybe we'll have some kind of contest partway through the year here. But anyway, there it is. It's in pink, and we'll see how that works. This is Daryl Olson from Jackson Kayak Fishing Team. I hope you find my fly tying crafts type stuff entertaining, and that you'll give it a try. All right, we'll see you on the water. Bye.